What is the role of the United Nations in the world today? And what was its original vision upon its foundation? You will remember that back in 1945, the United Nations was formed because of, formed out of the vision of Franklin Roosevelt, and based on and coming out of the vision of Woodrow Wilson and his League of Nations. And the original foundation and vision of the United Nations was to provide a forum where all the countries of the world could get together and discuss common problems and discuss how to overcome difficulties and understand what the various disagreements were and talk them out in a civil way and learn how each country could contribute to the other countries in the world being able to uh, come up with workable solutions. This was the original vision, was that by doing these things and talking these things out in this way, that would help to things not to ferment and and boil over to the point of creating actual armed conflict, actual force going on to force countries to one country to force another one through armed forces, using armed forces to take over other countries and solve conflicts in that way. It wasn't there to solve conflicts through force. It was to solve conflicts through communication. And you'll remember that when this was set up, it was set up by the United States uh, at the behest of Franklin D. Roosevelt, based on and out of the original vision of Woodrow Wilson for the League of Nations, and it was supposed to be far superior because the League of Nations really it was sort of a failed idea, didn't really go over and didn't work out because certain ones didn't want to deal with it, and so the United States, this is really the United States' baby, and it really started out to be an arm of the United States, and to help the United States in its leader, as it became after the World War II, when the United States became for the first time the leader of the free world. It needed a way to deal with all the various conflicts to keep this war, not to have another world war, and so as the Secretary of General oversees all of this. He's supposed to see that these various conversations get together the right way and deal the right way, and things don't come to armed conflicts. But now, the United States, mainly providing the budget for the United Nations, and the budget of the United Nations growing year by year, and also its complexity and its various government various world functions being added to as the days went by, much like our government has grown in size and added new agencies all the time. So did the United Nations. And it become a very large organization, and it had the budget to do so, and all of these agencies and all of these different functions, all these 3 and 4 and 5 letter acronyms that stand for all these different functions of the United Nations that come under the Secretary General of the United Nations. And so, as time goes on, just like the regular our government here in the United States, some of these became actually overblown and actually more agencies than maybe perhaps would be for the best. And so, there come a time when they were talking about having a reconstruction of the United Nations. And they were talking about all of the corruption and the misuse of funds and different things like that, much the same as in our own United States government. But as we begin to look at the United Nations, what we need to do, get a greater vision for what the real purpose of the United Nations was in the beginning, and try to look back at that and see, well, why was it founded and what was its original vision, and try to begin to ask ourselves, have we stayed with that original vision, and is it really worked out the way that it should? And it's at one time when I was a lot younger, I mastered a whole lot of foreign languages and was looking to maybe become Secretary General of the United Nations, and could have done it. I changed my mind because I had the reason why I say instead of saying I wanted to be saying that I was going to do that was that I had the whole thing mapped out very carefully, and I had everything in place that if I had continued it, I could have very easily done it. Very, very easily, and done a great job of it. But I changed my mind, and that was a lot of years ago when I changed my mind. And so all of those things that would have came into place over those years didn't materialize because I changed my mind and didn't follow the plan that I had. And so that's a lot the same the way everything is, when it comes to this third reconstruction of the United States, when it part of the benefit of the poor people, Poor People's Campaign and repairs of the breach and reconstructing the vision, of what should have happened after slavery and all these type of things. We have to first gain a very large vision of what is going to take place, and then we have to decide how are we going to put into place that vision, and what is the price we're willing to pay in order to put in that vision, and what are all the roads and the avenues leading up to making that vision feasible and productive and able to come about, and set that all down and begin to work on it, and learn as we go, but of course have the plan in place in all its detail, and not change our mind midstream or not change it, but stay with the program that we originally set out. And this is one of the things that happened with that first and second reconstruction. All these great visions and dreams and everything people had about this first reconstruction, they began to work on it and, getting it all set up, and it seemed to be going along fine. And then, the main leaders of it just sort of somehow or another let their vision and their excitement and their zeal and their various, what am I trying to say? The spark of ambition and the passion. I'm trying to say all of their passion just sort of begin to wane about that, and they begin to give up on the original idea. And then the political situation comes along and changes leadership anyway, and then they decide that, well, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves on this Reconstruction deal. And then they had to come back, many years later, like, what was it, 40 years later, and do a second Reconstruction of sorts. And then, the same thing happens. You have leaders that start out with a lot of passion and a lot of zeal and everything, and then it sort of wanes and withers and wanes. In time, it doesn't go the way it's supposed to. They didn't really plan it. They didn't really build the foundation the way it should, and it wasn't really a strong deal. And not enough people knew about it. Not enough people working on it. But now we see that we got this third reconstruction coming along. And we have somewhat similar thing, this beginning to form that need to happen in the United Nations. And so We got to have strong leaders, though. And when you look at the fact of the President of the United States and the congressional leaders, and you look at the Secretary General of the United Nations and the leaders of the Third Reconstruction and the leaders of the other movements, uh, put all together, we have very little real leadership and very little real vision, in any of it. In any of it. Between all of them, we might not have, maybe we might have two that have real vision, or maybe even one, or so forth. And so, what we got to first do on all this stuff, what I'm saying is, on all these things, we've got to first get a good vision, a workable vision. And before that, even, you've got to have leaders that are capable of vision. And you've got to get leaders that are motivated to be, leaders that see where we are historically, where we've been, and where we're going to go, and what the place and the time is right now. And then at the same time they have that understanding, they got to also be leaders of vision, and getting all that together in one leader of this and another leader of this other and another leader of this other movement. Getting that all together in these leaders, it's a very hard thing to do, and very unlikely that it happens very often. And so, what I'm going to be trying to teach on here a little bit at a time is how we do more of that, gaining leaders and electing leaders and putting leaders in place that are real leaders of vision based on principles of integrity and honesty and character and all this thing, and that they know where we are historically, and they know what the contribution of Judeo-Christian heritage is, and they know what the contribution of the English language and the other cultural contributions, and then they know where we've got to take that to maintain what we've already built, and then make it better. And that we got to be careful not to do it in a way that tears down all the work that people, because if you don't respect the work that has been done by people in the past and give them honor, how do you expect the people right now to think that they're going to be honored, given the proper honor and the proper respect, if they go into those positions, like being the Secretary General of the United Nations or the President of the United States. And, I think even the Secretary General of the United Nations probably gets a lot more respect than the President of the United States does by a lot of people. The most important position almost to be President of the United States, because he or she will be the leader of the free world, and they even have a lot to do with the direction that the United Nations goes. And so having someone in that office that people can respect and follow, and a person that has vision, and the same thing about our Congress and our senators, especially, and our representatives and the leaders of all these various movements. Got to be people in there that everyone can respect and honor, and they know, people of principle, integrity, and vision, and not just somebody that's got to get the wild hair, get a wild hair and want to do something, want to be recognized, they, want to have passion in their life, they want to have a goal, and they want people to honor them, and they want to get out and rabble rouse and all these other kind of things. Like, we have so many, now that tend to enjoy that more than actually getting down to the work of what the country needs. So we need to look at all these things, and I think I'm going to try to do some videos on the United Nations and what its real place is, and certainly not take over anybody's sovereignty or to redraw the lines of, countries or anything like that. It's really a communication forum, and really, see the place of communication and how important it is. Learn foreign languages, learn good communication skills so that we can communicate with people and leaders of other nations and other groups, and we can understand other races, creeds, and cultures. So I'm going to pray right now that we will gain that vision of what we need to do in these various movements, and that we will gain the vision and the understanding of what God's vision is for this world, and let everybody begin to pray to get into that and understand what their place is in that. And then we're going to pray now, of course, for everybody that needs healing, that they'll be raised up in healing power, and they'll be healed of their illness in the name of our blessed Holy, and Father, in the name of thy Holy Son, Jesus, raise everybody up, heal them, make them happy, give them joy in their lives. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.